Do these amendments have the recommendation of the President?
No, sir.
So specifically what I would like to ask is when was the concurrence of the President sought for my amendments?
And as the amendments could not be supported, they were not put forward to the President for the President's recommendation.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time. Oh, sorry. Sir, I beg to move that Parliament will immediately resolve itself into a committee on the bill.
The question is that Parliament will immediately resolve itself into a committee on the bill. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is that clauses 1 to 12 stand part of the bill. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Clause 13, there are 12 amendments standing in the name of Mr. Leon Perera, as indicated in the order paper supplement. The Minister for Finance has signified that the President's recommendation under Article 59(2) of the Constitution is required for amendments 1 to 3 and 8 to 12. Do these amendments have the recommendation of the President?
No, sir.
As the President's recommendation is not forthcoming for amendments 1 to 3 and 8 to 12, standing in Mr. Leon Perera's name, as indicated in the order paper supplement, these amendments cannot be moved. Amendments 4 to 7, Mr. Perera, please proceed to move these amendments together.
Mr. Speaker, sir, on a point of order, may I pose some questions to the Honourable Minister, the Leader of the House, on the process surrounding how the President was approached and how a recommendation was sought. May I do that at this stage?
Leader, would you like to explain?
Yeah, so specifically what I would like to ask is when was the concurrence of the President sought for my amendments, and is it correct to say that the advice of the President was sought, but at the same time, that advice could only be given from the Office of the President based on the advice of the relevant minister or the advice of Cabinet?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the specific amendments in question that Mr. Leon Perera has asked me about are the amendments in his notice of amendment. I think clause 13, amendments 1 to 3, and amendments 8 to 12. Now, under Article 59(2) of the Constitution provides that the recommendation of the President is required for a bill or an amendment that makes provision, whether directly or indirectly, for one of the stated financial matters. Those financial matters would include, for example, increasing or reducing taxes. When a bill has such implications, the fiscal implications, or when an amendment to a bill has such fiscal implications, the President's recommendation is required. That is provided for under Standing Order 67, Paragraph 1. Which provides that it is the duty of the Minister for Finance to inform the Speaker before moving amendments to a bill whether the recommendations of the President is required by law. This has been done. It was done by way of notification to Parliament, which was circulated by way of notice paper number 1522 to all members. So members would have received that, which means that all members, including Mr. Leon Perera and the Workers' Party, would be aware that the President's recommendation is necessary. Now, just in terms of timing, though, I need to remind members that the notice of amendment actually came in 2 clear days before the sitting, which means on Wednesday. So just Wednesday evening, and that means Thursday and Friday. Thursday and Friday, the government had to look at the amendments and assess to see whether or not such amendments had any fiscal implications. It was not, I should add, notified to us by the Workers' Party who had prepared the amendments that it would have fiscal implications, which one would actually expect you to do, knowing that President's recommendation is to be signified. So we had to check that through, and that took some time. Then Mr. Leon Perera's next question really is, well, whether the President's recommendation was sought, if so, when, etc. I must say, I do find that when you give government less than 48 hours notice, and not to mention the fact that there was no follow-up on the part of the Workers' Party even to find out whether anything would be done in this respect, I have to say that I find that it's somewhat, well, let us put it this way. You give less than 48 hours and somebody has to do the running for you. But in any event, the President's recommendation is not given for the members' amendments. This is because the government has assessed whether the amendments in question, that is Amendments 1 to 3 and 8 to 12, could not be supported on the merits. We determined that they could not be supported for the reasons explained earlier by my colleagues in the second reading debate, and as the amendments could not be supported, they were not put forward to the President for the President's recommendation. And this is perfectly in order, as the constitutional requirement for the President's recommendation to be sought for amendments with financial implications is a procedure that safeguards the government's financial initiative. The President would act in accordance with the government's advice in giving or not giving the required recommendation. It is not unique to us. It is a long-established feature of Westminster parliaments that the government of the day has the sole right and responsibility to initiate financial legislation. The government may therefore also take the decision not to put forward amendments with financial implications for the recommendation.
Can I just give a brief response to Minister Indranee Rajah's points on procedure?
We're not having a debate on this issue. If you have any clarification, you can pose that. Otherwise, I suggest we move on to Amendments 4 to 7, please.
Mr. Chairman, sir, could I just briefly respond to Minister Indranee Rajah on her observations about the process of filing, not to reopen the substantive debate, but just to respond to one or two of her observations.
Keep it short.
Yeah. So, Ms. Tingru and myself filed the amendments with the Clerk of Parliament on the Monday. I do understand the point that the Minister is making, that the notice was sent out to all members of Parliament on the Wednesday, but I just want to make the point that we did file the amendments that we plan to move on the Monday, and I do also want to make the observation that we received the notification that the President's recommendation was necessary on the Saturday at about 1 p.m. So we worked on it from that point on. Anyway, those are just some brief observations. Mr. Chairman, sir, I would like to move the amendments numbers 4 to 7, standing in the order paper supplement in my name. I'd like to move those amendments.
Leader.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, just a very quick response, and not to belabor the matter. I understand that the member may have put in the amendments earlier. All I'm saying is that it actually would be helpful, even though the standing orders have a specific procedural requirement of time, that you can actually, of your own volition, also notify the government ahead of time, so that would actually give us a little bit more time. So that's all I'm saying in terms of just a matter of, adequate time and preparation. One does not go, in this case we had taken a decision and looked at it, decided not to put forward the recommendation. But I would just like to remind members that when one does not go to the President with less than 48 hours and say, here it is, please make a decision now, the President, if something was put forward, would have to consider things that would take some time. But in this case, as the government, having taken the decision, had made the decision not to put it forward for the reasons stated.
Leader of Opposition.
Just to the Leader of the House, thank you for the clarification. There was no intention to give the government very little time to respond. I think this is a novel process insofar as at least my time in the House has been concerned. I don't think this particular memo or such a memo has come up. I think the intention was to make sure we file on time as per standing orders, which we did. And thereafter, on the Saturday after Mr. Perera received a note from the Clerk of Parliament, I think he followed up with the Clerk of Parliament with a list of questions as to procedure and so forth. So there was no intention to try and give the government very little time to respond or anything of that sort. I just thought I ought to put that on the record.
Leader.
I thank the Leader of the Opposition for his clarification. Thank you.